Hello everyone, JP here from Caffeinated Warlord with another Kings of War battle report, my Undead versus Ratkin, in a tournament where we are playing the kill scenario. It's 2150 points, so watch on to see who kills more. The tournament in question, in case you haven't kept up, is ConVic 2023. It happened a month ago, a while ago. I've been overseas a lot, so I haven't been able to film and record as much. I did do some in China, as you know, the first two battle reports, one of which I won, one of which I lost. This is the third round, so what's going to happen? I'm going alright, considering one win, one loss, so I'm quite happy with whatever happens now. You generally just want to have at least one win in a day, because otherwise going in with 3 losses and coming back the next day, that's hard to do. And I definitely admire people that can do it. I haven't had to do it yet, but I'm sure it'll happen. Now, what's special about this tournament before we jog on into the army lists is that ConVic allows you to move one piece of terrain before the game. Players roll off, and whoever wins gets to move a single piece of terrain 6 inches in any direction, while still obviously adhering to normal kinds of rules of placement of terrain. So you can move a hill into deployment zone or a forest in the way or out of the way, and I'll mention where it becomes relevant, and it will be relevant in this particular game. So let's get into the army lists. I took Undead, and I will go through it rather speedily. It's 2150 points of fun dead, as I call them, thanks Matt, and it is 3 regiments of zombies, 1 regiment of skeleton spearmen, 1 troop of wraiths, 2 Soul Reaver infantry regiments, 1 with a staying stone, just to help them out a little bit, 1 horde of wights with the blade of slashing, 2 troops of revenant cavalry, so that's the real chaff in the list, 1 regiment of Soul Reaver cavalry with Sir Jesse's boots of striding, 2 balefire catapults, and then the support crew with 1 Revenant King, just with Surge 5, another Revenant King on an Undead horse with Trix's Wand, so he gets Hex 2 and Surge 5, and finally a Necromancer with the Inspiring Talisman, Heal 3, and Bane Chant 2. That gives me 16 units, that's quite a lot of drops, and 24 unit strength. Not too shabby. Pretty happy with this list so far. It's got enough hammers, it's got enough chaff, and it's got just plenty of unit strength that I can hopefully leave where I need it to. If anything, it just doesn't have the speed. That's the only thing it's really lacking. It's not that fast. But what are you going to do? You can't cover all your bases. So as mentioned, it was Ratkin for my third opponent of the day and in the kill scenario. And this was helmed by the Geelong-based general, Oz. So Oz has been actually coming from Geelong all the way into Melbourne, which is, you know, it's a regional city outside the city. Not too far away, but it's quite the journey, and he turns up for a lot of events. So it's always great to see him coming along, and this time he was bringing his Ratkin. He usually runs something like the Varangur or Northern Alliance. And so I've only played against Ratkin once, and indeed that's actually on this channel. And so this is my second time going against Ratkin, so it's all still a little bit vague, but I think now I'm getting more used to it. So what we have here, we have what's pretty standard in a Ratkin army, are 3 hordes of shock troops. Shock troops being the infantry that can actually do quite a bit of damage. They have a lot of attacks, they do hit on 4s, but they do take to upgrades quite well, and they have, and you can give them plague pots, for instance, which gives them for a turn stealthy and ensnare, but you do have to announce it right at the start of your turn, so that is always important. You can't just go, oh, I'm in combat, and then start doing it, so you have to do, you have to foresee a bit what might be happening. But here we are, we have the 3 hordes, one of has the Brew of Sharpness, one has the Brew of Strength, and the last has the Aegis of the Elohi. And it's quite obvious which one's a which, because he has the cards, and he puts them in there. Obviously, the Brew of Strength and Brew of Sharpness need no explanation. It just makes the shock troops straight up nasty, and the Aegis of the Elohi makes one of them quite tanky. Then moving on into the chaff, we have 3 regiments of Vermintide, and then it's all kinds of just bits, like just punchy, nasty machines and characters. We have 2 Death Engine Impalers, which are these chariot monsters. So they're on a chariot base, and they do variable attacks, but they can hit really hard. So he's got 2 of those, and they're pretty hard to stop because they have their chariot base, so they have that thin frontage, but they're quite long. It's bad for them because you can invite flanks quite easily, but it means they can also multi-charge very easily. Then we have 1 War Chief with the Fleabag mount for some extra speed and height, and has the aura for vicious, which is for infantry only. Obviously, the shock troops will benefit from that vicious. So we've got vicious shock troops with brew of sharpness, with brew of strength. You see how it starts to work. Then we have a brute enforcer with the inspiring talisman, and a night terror with pipes of terror, so he gets brutal. And I didn't realize night terror is a nice cheap little monster that you can just kind of go off doing its own thing. Pretty cool. Finally, we have what I've seen before and what defeated me before, all the way back in 2022 is the Smoke, Mirrors, and Death formation, which is a formation that contains these the two shredders, which are war engines that shoot pretty well. You know, they're not like cannons or anything. They're more like a higher rate of fire bolt throwers. Pretty good. And then we have one Death Engine Spewer, which I think the Death Engine Spewer is kind of like the Death Engine Impaler, but it's the shooty version, so it moves around and it shoots instead. And also, I think it gets an Aura of Iron Resolve for tech, so there's a few different things here that have the tech keyword. And it also has the redeployment shenanigans, which allows it... most people, what they do is they'll put down these three things just anywhere, and you know that they can completely redeploy them, so it's a way of forcing you to have to deploy some stuff while not really knowing where they are. So I have to deploy three things, not knowing where he's going to put these three, but I generally know because you'll see the map. But what this is 14 units, 20 unit strength, so it's quite strange. I'm going against Ratkin, but I'm outdoing their drop, well, I'm same amount of drops and I'm outdoing their unit strength. But it doesn't matter because it's kill, so we've just got to see if I can kill him faster than he can kill me. He has a lot of shooting, I have a little bit of shooting. He has equal amount of speed, nothing here is too much faster. So it will really be about who can get in where at the right time, especially when it comes to those shock troops. So let's take a look at the map. So here's a reminder for me. It's round 3, it's kill, and here's the setup. So we'll start with the terrain. We have one hill here and one hill here. So the hills are on the left and right extremes. So not really being part of the game. Then we have two blocking terrain here, identical pieces of blocking terrain. The unpainted one is one you can win, actually. You can, at the end of the tournament, you could pick that up and take it home. So that's why it's unpainted. It's not because they were lazy. So these are two of these and two forests, pretty much in a line together, and then an obstacle jutting out right here, and the other obstacle is, oh, there it is, over here, also jutting out from the building, and then we have some difficult terrain, flat difficult underneath my army, and some flat difficult terrain underneath his army, so in the deployment zones. So it's actually quite a mirrored kind of map. But the one thing, and that's why I wanted to mention it, is that this forest was 6 inches in here, so it was actually sitting out right here. And Oz won the roll-off, and he wanted to move this out of the way. I assume to make a nice corridor for his army to march right down and get into the thick of it. And also provide a firing lane for all his shooting, which I don't blame him. You want to be able to see right down and get all your shooting to bear. So that's what he has done. But we'll get into the deployment and how this kind of setup has has made it difficult for him to completely utilize his army. At least that's how I saw the situation when I was putting everything down. So when I saw this map, we have a real corridor. Right, so we have height 9 stuff on either side of this central kill zone, right? So the way I saw it is I need my stuff to be in this kill zone. I need to go right up unimpeded, and I'll get all kinds of charges off. And I have lots of chaff to get in the way, chaff that really is quite durable, so it shouldn't be too easy to shoot off and remove. And so that's how I've deployed right here. So the three, my main chaff, so I've got Revenant Cavalry, Wraiths, and Revenant Cavalry, which are screening the 2 regiments of Soulweaver Infantry, and then the horde of Whites. So those will be following up right behind, well, not too right behind, but behind enough as we move up and stake our claim, and hopefully have all the fights happening in this easy to fight in area. And then to protect the flanks, even though I don't need to protect them too much, because in order to see me, he has to enter these forests to charge the flanks, say, on this side. I have zombies, in this case skeleton spearmen on one side, and 2 zombies on the other side. So they're just there to get in the way. It's kill, so he kills them, I don't care. they're only worth minimal points, and if that holds them up for 2 turns, 1 turn, then that's just better for me while I hopefully can kill other things and then turn to face that. So that's the central core of the army right there. Then the characters, I have my Revenant King on mount here with Hex. He's got nothing to Hex, so that's useless because he has no casters in his army, so it's simply just a Revenant King with Surge 5. Then here is the little Necromancer, ready to heal up anything that starts taking damage, so that's why I have heal on him, is to heal up from shooting, because I realize that that's one thing that I don't like taking very early on. And then right here, I think, is the other Revenant King. So I've got everything nicely under some Inspiring, nothing should be taken off too early. And then I did one thing that I haven't done pretty much the whole tournament thus far, is a flanking maneuver. I decided to put my Soul Reaver Cavalry all the way out here without anything. I just thought, let's just put them out here. It was actually these guys I held back until right to the end, as all the deployment was shaping up, and I was realizing that they could go out there because there wasn't anything that was really going to be faster than them and hold them up and get in their way, or threaten them. So it felt like that was something I could do. And then the Balefire Catapults are right here, smack bang in the middle, just ready to shoot anything that's a height 4, which happens to be the Death Engine Impalers, because then I can always see those. So yeah, that's my deployment. The way Oz deployed, well, he's got the central corridor to consider, and so he has one shock troop horde there, another shock troop horde here. I think that one's got a brew of strength. Hard to read from here, but yeah, you can see the cards are flicking out of them here. So we've got our shock troops. That is a Vermintide regiment with some really cool rat models. I really like them. So one Vermintide regiment there in front of this shock troop horde, one Vermintide regiment here behind this shock troop horde. This one's put back because I don't think he could fit it in. Because yeah, what he wanted to do was make sure that these shredders, he wanted them front and center, because if you put them back here, they'll be shooting with cover. So he put them in the front, but I think he's sacrificing the optimal placement of his shock troops just for the added shooting. Which, I mean, it is shooting. It is good. He has good shooting, but I'm not sure it's the best choice. Behind it is one of the Impalers, the Death Engine Impaler, along with the War Chief on mount. And then we have the final shock troop horde out here. And it's unfortunate because this corridor actually is smaller than what 3 hordes of infantry could fit through. And so I think that was the real limiting factor for him, was that was the question that was posed by the map. It was, here is the place in which we can fight, how are you going to deploy? And so one of them had to go here, and they will have to first go through the difficult terrain, then the forest, and then somehow navigate their way to contribute to the game while having this blocking terrain right here. So that's a lot of things to contend with a horde, which is generally more inflexible than all other kinds of unit sizes. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to be on the back foot. Oh, and that's the Brute Enforcer back there, over there. And we have another regiment of the Vermintide here. Ah, no, there's no regiment of Vermintide here. I think it's over there. So 1, 2, 3 regiments of Vermintide spread out. And over here is the other Death Engine Impaler and the Night Terror, hoping to do their own flanking maneuver into my army. So I'm glad I've got things like zombies and skeleton spearmen to hold them up for a bit. So that is the deployment. So we'll see. I'm not too scared because I don't think I'll ever be taking on all of his... I won't be receiving a charge from all 3 of the shock troops at once, which is what would scare me. That's... If they got in... So if imagine they get into each of the different hammers, or they got into... even if they got separately into the chaff and took each chaff out perfectly by themselves, and I get my counter charge, I can't take out all 3 with all 3 of my hammers. I need 2 hammers into 1 to take them out in one go. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that I need to make sure I can get 2 into 1, because they have a lot of nerve and you just need to take them out. So let's see. Pictures of the armies, yes, so there's the rats. I really like them because it really looks like a swarm of rats, just all crawling on top of each other to get forward. These are nice models. Fully painted, very nice. Yeah, he's got this popping orange kind of glowy look. He's orange and green. It's good contrasting colors to go together. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, Brew of Sharpness there. Ah, there it is. And behind the building, there, we almost forgot about it. There's the Death Engine Spewer hiding behind there. I think he was just running out of room. Not sure why he hit it, but yeah. Oh, blurry action shot. Not very good there. And here's my army. Looking looking pretty cool if I do say so myself. And it's time to begin turn 1. So I get turn 1 and I just move up. Should be no surprise. So moving up with the main army, obviously nothing can go at the double because we're all shambling, so it just moves up the standard 8 and 7. So we move up max, just staking our claim and make sure we establish this is our zone. And so I've got, with the 8, I have the 16-inch threat range, so I'm threatening him if he chooses to move at all. If he moves forward, then I have the ability to charge. So that's kind of why the Revenant Cavalry is pretty solid, even though they are shambling. Is even if you get turn 1, you can still set the stake saying, I can get across almost the whole battlefield, right? So that's pretty cool. And yes, the Soul Reaver Cavalry going up the side, and I know I'll probably have to get through the little Vermintide, but that's okay. They're not hard to get through. It will delay me 1 turn though. I do some shooting because I can see the Death Engine Impaler and managed to do 4 damage there from my Balefire Catapults. I did manage to hit, so I'm quite happy with that, and that's pretty much the turn. So it's his turn, and of course he moves up the Vermintide to really get in my face, so, well, there's no prizes at wondering what I'll be doing in my turn too. The rest of his army does move up. He puts his single bit of chaff here, the Vermintide, in front, but it's just one by themselves. And then we have all kinds of, all the hordes moving up. This one's managed to move up into the forest so it can see, so that's definitely, I guess, it's making progress through all that difficult terrain. Good on it. And right now he's just trying to see what he can shoot with his shredders, because he does want to shoot with the shredders. That was the whole point though at the front, but then he also wants his Death Engine Impaler in front, and the Death Engine Impaler is height 4 and blocks a whole bunch of stuff. So this shredder can't even see. This shredder is struggling. So yeah, he's going to pop some shots off, and he's just wondering what, defense 6 Wraiths or defense 5 Rev Cav with, dash 14. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be making these choices. And on the flanking side, we have the Death Engine Impaler, the Vermintide, and the Night Terror just coming in on the side. The Night Terror is actually really fast. It's pretty cool. I like it. I like it as a unit, and in it comes. It just doesn't have Inspiring, but fair enough, it doesn't have Inspiring. That'd be crazy. But yeah. I believe this is his arm to indicate he was shooting at something. Yes, some shots were done with the Shredder, 1 damage done, but that doesn't take them off, because that's all you can do. You can't waver them. You're either taking them off or nothing. Turn 2. It's all happening rather fast. So I have turned to meet the flanking force with my delaying chaff. So skeleton and zombies, they don't need to get up here. There is no space for skeletons and zombies in this fight. I don't want them in this fight. If they get in here, they're going to hold up everything. I need to get killing, so the zombies and skeletons are going off to the side to go hold up what wouldn't be nice in the flank, which is the Death Engine Impaler and the Night Terror. I don't want them anywhere near my whites, so I'm hopefully going to hold them up. Here, the rest of the army, so what have I done? I managed to get the flank on the Death Engine Impaler. I did mention the fact that it has a wide flank and it invites flank charges quite easily, and that's what happened. So these guys were all the way over here, so that was this one, and from their angle, it was a flank charge, so off they went. Now, they're not going to kill it. I shouldn't say never. I should never think that they will kill it. But sometimes you do think, oh, yeah, I got that charge, I'll do it. And you send them off somewhere silly. This workplace, I don't think is too silly. I think this hopefully will hold things up just by the fact that it's kind of in there, and that's alright. So they're acting as the chaff. I move forward. Yeah, he'll obliterate them, but that's alright. They can just get destroyed, and now my Soul Reavers are in range because these guys have gone in here to do some damage. They'll hopefully do something to the Death Engine Impaler by flanking it. 16 attacks hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. Should be something from that. But yeah, it still acts as chaff. The Wraiths went into the Vermintide because something had to go into those, and that will hopefully then block up this whole army until I'm ready to deal with it. And my other Revenant Cavalry went into the big horde of shock troops, and they definitely won't do anything because they are hindered, and they lost some thunderous charge. So yeah, and they need attacks. No way. In a flank maybe, but in the front, not at all. Good for me that these guys don't have the phalanx upgrade, because if I did, that would be really nasty. But yeah, they're definitely not doing it. And I think, that's the Brew of Strength one, Brew of Sharpness, and Aegis one. Alright, and these zombies, yeah, I don't know what to do with the zombies. Like I said, I don't want zombies in this fight, so they're stuck here. Over here, yes, I charge, of course. So Soul Reaver Cavalry into the Vermintide on the flank, so we can eventually, the idea is that they'll finish up with this, and then in turn 3, be able to charge this unit here. And we have the Boots of Striding, so we don't even care about the difficult terrain. So that's my goal. So, I think I took a picture here. Oh, I did 2 damage there. I can't say 11 damage. That'd be... Oh, actually, you know, I might say 11 damage because there was 4 damage on it already for some shooting. So, hey, gosh. Ah, and there's a Bane Chant. Look, see, I'm learning things already. It has been a month. But yes, when you Bane Chant them, then wounding on 2s, then I guess you can do quite a bit of damage. So it is quite damaged. And yeah, these guys did an admirable amount of damage themselves. But I don't believe I managed to take it off at all because I do know that sticks around for a little bit longer in the game. But, you know, damage is damage, so we'll be happy with that. And it's still the chaff game. The chaff is still doing its job. And we did 5 damage to the Vermintide, and they remain. So it's his turn. And so it was definitely a flank, as you could see before. If we go back, totally no doubt. Anyway, so it's a rear charge from the these guys. The shock troops, so rear charge, but while it's definitely securing their demise, it's not great in terms of setting up for the counter attack because yes, we've got 2 Soul Reaver infantry regiments, really nasty stuff. While over here, yes, obviously the counter charge from the Vermintide, counter charges happening here, counter charge from the Impaler, and guess what? These shredders can't see anything at all because they've got this whole screen of height 3 and height 4, so unfortunately they are stuck there. But we do have other things turning in. We've got the Brute heading off. He's inspiring. I'm not sure where he's heading off to, but yeah, so that's the Brute Enforcer, and that is the Death Engine Spewer. I think they're actual real models. They're nice models. So the Death Engine Spewer ready to spew. Over here, we've got charges galore into my flanks, but that's what's going on quite well, is that they're holding them up. So zombies getting flanked by Vermintide, which I'm not worried about in the slightest. While we do have a double charge here from the Night Terror and a hindered Death Engine Impaler into my Spearmen, which unfortunately for them, their spears are ineffective against chariots. So, oh well. Here are the that's the shooting from the Death Engine Spewer into my Soul Reaver Infantry, so 3 damage, pretty good. And definitely some damage from these guys, the Brew of Strength shock troops, but only 6 damage. I think, yeah. We look over there, not particularly good rolling. So yeah, they did not manage, but obviously these guys had no problem because yeah, when you're doing, that's 90 attacks, no problem whatsoever. They're gone. So he reforms as best he could to make sure he's not giving any kinds of flanks. And we've got the Death Engine Impaler now turning back to the front. So that's all well and good. Down here, that's a mediocre amount of damage done to the skeletons, so the skeletons will continue just holding there. They are thankfully inspired by this Revenant King, who I'll continue to keep back here just to help these guys hold out for a bit longer, because this guy hasn't got anything really to do. There's plenty of inspiring down there, and the Vermintide do just 3 damage to the zombies. So far my protective layer, my outer onion layer, is helping protect the army. So it's turn 3. Now, I had a flank here, so I do a hindered flank charge with zombies, which anyone using Undead knows is a fantastic way to use zombies. They will do very little damage. And we've got a front charge from the Skeleton Spearmen, so, I mean, optimistically I'm hoping they do something, but I don't think they will. But I did send my Revenant King into the Vermintide just to start chopping away at them. Over here, yes, the whites now could charge into that gap between the Vermintide and the shock troop, Vermintide and the building. Yes, so they managed to get in, they're charging, and where did the whites go? Well, no whites, the wraiths managed to see the flank, so this Brute Enforcer running off for whatever reason he was, I guess because he couldn't get into combats. Anyway, got a flank, so off the wraiths went, because they did not get damaged at all by the counter charge of the Vermintide, which is not surprising considering I'm defense 6. So I went off there to hopefully kill it, or at least get in the way. I mean, when you send off defense 6 race, you don't really worry about what's going into them, because this is the Death Engine Spewer. It's not going to charge them, and nothing else can really charge them, so they're quite safe from that. So it was a no-brainer, as you might say. And then over here, Yeah, showing that off. Well, we can kind of see it in all these pictures, but it's a double charge from the Soul Reaver infantry. We can both fit in quite nicely into the front of these shock troops, because yeah, that's the unfortunate situation that they're in. They did charge into the rear, and they could only reform in a way that would still give me the frontage to easily get both in. So that's what's happening. That's exactly what I wanted. Not so exciting here. Well, still pretty good. So we've got the Soul Reaver cavalry finally in. I didn't even take a picture of the demise of the poor Vermintide, but they're going into the shock troops along with the Revenant cavalry, who will do not much on a counter charge at all, and the zombies. I sent them in because they didn't have much else to do, so I decided why not. Maybe even I did it because no, it's not a why not situation. There was some intelligence behind the decision, because by charging them in, it kind of shuffled everything along to the point that I don't have to use my boots with my Soul Reaver cavalry, because yeah, you don't want to throw them away willy-nilly if you can avoid it. And so by throwing in hindered zombies, which will do absolutely nothing, but they do prevent my Soul Reaver cavalry from having to use their boots to gain Pathfinder. So, you know, yeah, I can be pretty smart in retrospect. Yeah, this is me after the fact. Alright, so the charge that went in, well, we've got damage on these guys. Why have we got damage? That I don't know. I have damage on them. Oh no, that would have been damage from these guys. Yeah, of course they were damaged. What am I talking about? And this is then their life leech. That's why the numbers don't marry up. That's why I'm getting confused. But yes, we've done some damage. It looks like, yeah, 4 damage. Yeah, what do you expect? So it's definitely not going to get rid of a Death Engine Impaler, but you know, just chipping away. And here the Revenant King did. Oh, it's so bright. I can barely see. Some damage. Good on him. The whites definitely don't take out the shock troops in the first go, but that's fine. There's nothing really threatening them, because yeah, everything else is kind of blocked up. I guess I could get Vermintide into the side, but you know, it's just Vermintide, so that's okay. But yeah, I've started my first round of damage, but that's why I knew I needed to double charge these shock troops, because it definitely takes, for a single unit such as these, 18 attacks, and you think of the maximum, well, you know, your good scenario, so let's say, I don't know, 12 damage. 12 damage still isn't enough to reliably take them off. So you need 2 rounds of 12 damage or 10 damage or something like that to know that you're getting rid of shock troops. And so that's why you can only do it in a situation when you know that they're going to be safe. And so these whites were being safe. And I don't know, do we have a picture? Yeah, well, the Soul Reaver infantry definitely did not have any trouble taking out their horde. So the 2 Soul Reaver infantry are now free. But over here, we've got this charge going in. Now, why have we got a wavering token there? Not sure. Not sure who that was for. In any case, yeah, no, we are in. Oh no, I think they're wavering. Yes. Yeah, that was me giving him the wavering token. So yeah, we managed to get them wavering. I can't see the damage amount, but it was a sufficient amount to get to the wavering point. So good for me. The Soul Reaver cavalry, you know, it's a difference. I'm used to using Abyssal Horsemen, and Soul Reaver cavalry are just the 20 attacks. Just seems to make a difference, and I'm not quite sure why, but 2 more attacks is a big deal. Yep, so the Wraiths took out the Brute Enforcer and are now turning to the flank of, well, the shock troops as well as the Death Engine and Spewer. So the Wraiths are now free in the back lines, which is, I mean, Wraiths aren't usually a combat threat, but this case is where you don't want Wraiths. So now it's his turn, because everything's moved around a bit, hey? But I did turn the Soul Reaver infantry, one to face the Vermintide and the other one to face this Death Engine Impaler, because I didn't want to get a flank from that. And so that's the kind of charges that we've got. Vermintide into one, Death Engine Impaler into the other, Soul Reaver infantry. Over here, the wavered shock troops have just decided to just back up, get out of the way, so that everything will be, at least lots of things will be hindered, not the Soul Reaver cavalry. But that's a smart idea. There's nothing else you can really do. And he can also pour some shots in with his spewers, which I believe is what he's pointing at here, as well as with the Death Engine Spewer. Shredders, not spewers. Spewer, shredder. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Down here, the little scrum, where I'm just doing delay tactics, well, I am doing alright. You know, just holding in there, that's all. And the Night Terror decided to get out of the situation so that it can set up for a flank charge and end it all, because I think he could see that this was going to take a really long time. And over here, some shooting damage was done. Who was there? So these guys already had some damage on them, and they must have healed from... Well, I must have healed them because I didn't have anything else to cast. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Yeah, so 6 damage. So yeah, the Death Engine Impaler, 6 damage on Soul Reaver Infantry, but still not quite enough. A little bit of damage here from the Vermintide, and quite a bit of damage, 7 damage, onto the Wights from what is unfortunately the weakest of the shock troops. So of the 3 different shock troops I'm going into, this is the Aegis of the Elohi one. So if I had to grind it out with one, it would be with these ones. Because yes, I've got Unresolved, but you know, at least they're not going to delete me in return. Because that's what the Brew of Strength ones or Sharpness ones might do to Wights. Definitely. So yeah, 7 damage. And yeah, the combined efforts here managed to see... Well, not combined efforts, it's just they managed to kill it. So the Death Engine Impaler gets to back up, skeletons are gone, and it's now just the zombies there by themselves, along with the Revenant King. So now it's my turn, turn 4. So, what he did have, and I didn't show, was that he did manage to charge in his War Chief. I believe that, yeah, charging in his turn is a way of holding up my Soul Reaver Cavalry. So there's a little bit of damage on them, and so I'll have to charge him back. You know, that's what you have to do. Whereas the Revenant Cavalry had gone off to do another hindered charge into these shock troops on this right flank, and hopefully they'll just hold them there while the rest of the cavalry can arrive. The real cavalry, not the Revenant Cavalry, they don't count. And they've already got quite a lot of damage on this. There's the real shooting damage, 7 damage. So they did get shot, but they're still there. Dash 14, gotta love it. Over here in the center, well, that Death Engine Impaler that dared try to damage my Soul Reaver Infantry is now getting flanked by zombies. Hindered flank. It seems to be, whole game, whenever zombies are getting in, they're just getting hindered everywhere. So they're really not contributing. But there still is 1 damage. The problem is it does eat up your clock, so, you know, it's not the best idea, but I guess I wasn't that concerned about my clock in this particular game. Counter charge, and a flank charge from the Wraiths into the shock troops. So that'll hopefully end that shock troop battle there before the shock troops really put... Because if they do another 7 damage to the Wights will pretty much be gone. That's them dead. So we need to finish that up quick. And so we get some damage in, but it looks like that continues, I believe. Or why did I take a picture? I don't think the damage has happened yet. Down here, that was the zombies. So it was the second zombie regiment all the way from here that I decided, needs to march over and get into some combat. So it's rushed in and doing some flank damage, maybe even kill it, who knows. At least they're not hindered this time. And these zombies also not hindered, going here. And now I'm just trying to shoot this Death Engine Impaler with my Balefire catapults, because they haven't had much to shoot for a little while. And so here, so now the damage is being done, and I managed to take out the shock troops on the left with my Wights and the Wraiths combined. So Wights and Wraiths, the ones that always get confused, well, guess what? They both work together and kill the shock troops. So you can confuse them in this case. And they turn to face the rest of the army being all the fire support and the remaining shock troops. Obviously, these shock troops, I think I managed to waver again, which is a bit rude. So yeah, I do apologize. I shouldn't be doing so well with my Revenant Cavalry, but that's the case. And the Soul Reaver Infantry do take out the Death Engine Impaler, and I'm sure it was with no real help from the zombies. And down here, this Vermintide is gone thanks to the flanking from the zombies. They were unhindered, so I was already complaining about zombies being hindered, and it turns out I shouldn't have complained that much. So yeah, we take out the Vermintide there, but yes, these zombies, I believe they were hindered from coming out of this forest. They do no damage to the Night Terror. Surprise, surprise. And so, in his turn, I believe this is showing his turn? There we go. So what happened here? I think he's just trying to make sure nothing can really charge him here, but unfortunately this thing can't move that much out of the way, so it's in a precarious situation. It has damage on it already from my artillery, because there's a height 4 thing, so it's one thing I can just see, so I'm just like, I'll shoot that while I'm waiting for anything else to open up while the combat's just raging, because I just can't see anything in the middle. It's just one big scrum. So there is a combat going on down here. He decided to charge in with his War Chief and his shock troops to clear these guys out. Fair enough, War Chief, weren't you there? So I obviously didn't... Oh no, I didn't kill the War Chief at all with my Soul Reaver Cavalry. So he's gone into the flank here, hopefully to take out this chaff, but I don't know. Because the problem is this War Chief is now setting up perfectly for an overrun kind of attack. You know, I go in with my cavalry, boom, kill him, and then go into them. So I get a 2-for-1. So I'm not sure it's the best move, but it is the end of day one. You throw a third game, so I understand if this is yeah. Especially when taking losses, the brain really doesn't want to work that well, and I'm here on a high from winning, so I shouldn't be talking so harshly. But yeah, this guy shouldn't be here because now he's inviting the perfect kind of thing where you just charge in. Because even if he does D3 backwards, he probably won't get out of the way from my cavalry charging in. Enough about that. So yeah, that's the combats here. Here he's getting into the zombies, Death Engine Impaler and Night Terror. It's just, yeah, that's what I get for trying to flank a Night Terror. That's a silly idea. So I'm losing those zombies, that's for sure. Turn 5. I guess we'll see if we lost their zombies because I didn't take a picture of their actual demise. So I can't remember. Alright, so charges have happened. We've got the whites going into the Death Engine Spewer. We've got over here one Soul Reaver regiment going into a shredder, while the other Soul Reaver regiment is flanking these guys that are stuck. They didn't manage to take out the chaff, and as predicted, we have the Soul Reaver cavalry going into the flank of that character, the War Chief on mount. So that isn't good. If I take that out, that's the last of the inspiring in this area, so they will be uninspired, which is definitely not how they want to be, but it doesn't really matter because you also don't want to be flanked by Soul Reaver infantry. Definitely not. So yeah, not a good situation. And down here, well, they did obviously kill those skeletons, and now they're free. So the Death Engine Impaler has turned to face the zombies, but as I was trying to plan, that was the delaying tactic. These guys took so long, we're in turn 5, my army is well away, so even though this Death Engine Impaler is definitely a threat, and you wouldn't want him in your backfield, for him to get around this forest and kill all these things, I managed to get out of the place. So there's no longer anything to charge apart from some zombies, which he's definitely welcome to take out. Over here, yeah, we're just fighting away. Why did I take a picture? Well, now it's a picture, so it's a before and after. So the whites definitely kill with the spewer, that shredder is dead, and the shock troops are dead. So there's just over here, and yeah, look, the whole overrun thing did indeed happen the way I predicted. It just went right through that War Chief's dead, and then you have Soul Reaver cavalry in the front, Soul Reaver infantry in the flank, and I guess some Revenant cavalry as well. But yeah, the shock troops definitely can't handle that without inspiring doubly so. And so it's just the shredder remaining, and so I've turned some stuff to face that way, while turning these Soul Reaver infantry to face inwards, I suppose. So that is the situation. Down here, well, my luck continued to run, which is very unfair, but I was shooting with my Balefire catapults at the Death Engine Impaler, because I was thinking, well, I'll just put some more damage on it, so maybe the zombies won't have so bad a time of it, but I got really, I think I must have hit with all 4, and then rolled hot with my D3s, so it did a monumental amount of damage. It was already damaged from some early shots, and I just took it right off. So now it's just the Shredder and the Night Terror that remain. Yeah, these guys. Doing pretty good. Down to turn 6, getting to the tail end, the rat tail, and I think he's decided, I said, those Balefire catapults, they've actually cumulatively done quite a lot of damage across the game, weakening different targets, making it really easy for me to take them off in one go, and so he's saying the Night Terror, that's his job, it's just going to go finish that off, and fair enough, I don't begrudge him that at all. It's time to take out the artillery. I know how annoying artillery is as well. But that's their final shot. Surprised me too. Yeah, so he had the Night Terror, and he went to go in, and he did kill a Balefire catapult, but it was turn 6, and it ended, and I was up there, I killed the last Shredder, so it was the Night Terror that remained. I didn't kill the Night Terror, but everything else was destroyed. So that, since it's just kill, that's definitely a win to me, and yeah, it turns out if given the opportunity, Undead can still be very, very killy, which is, heartening to know. But it's particularly the case when you're going into such things as Defense 4 Ratkin, because everything I'm throwing at him is wounding on 2s, so it's a pretty easy job for me. And as outlined at the start, the poor situation with the deployment where the buildings and the trees essentially funneled him into this small spot that he couldn't bring all 3 hordes to bear. But to be fair, bringing all 3 hordes to bear in any situation on the map is tricky. That's why it's really hard to go to that kind of build. And I'm not sure the army can work spreading out the hordes or putting two one place and one another place, but maybe that's where where it can be, or taking that one horde and turning it into something a bit cheaper and it can just be something in the way. I'm not sure. And then that would bump up the unit strength, but unit strength doesn't matter here. The shooting was what I was most scared of, and it didn't turn out to be that scary, but again that was because of the deployment, just because nothing could shoot when it wanted to because there was stuff in the way. And I don't have that many tall things, and he doesn't have indirect fire things. So everything he's shooting at is shooting with cover. And I'm not sure what would make that better in this particular situation, because my flanks were completely hidden thanks to that, the trees, all the height 9 stuff. So he couldn't have put them on the side. They had to be in the middle, and in the middle was his army. So I'm not quite sure. But then there's also, obviously, the tournament way of playing kill is that you don't engage at all. You just sit back. But we both had war engines, so it would have ended up whoever gets lucky with their war engines more. Balefire catapults can be very lucky sometimes, and they can do a lot of damage, but then the Ratkin shooting can be very consistent because it's just not as variable. And he did have enough. So perhaps that's the way. But I guess the point is, since I got that first turn and managed to push up so aggressively right in the middle, it didn't really allow for the situation where he could just sit back and shoot up as much as he liked. He had to come out. But perhaps he could have done a move back instead. And that's something I don't do very often, and a lot of people don't do, is that sometimes moving backwards or not moving at all is the best answer. And maybe that's what Aussie could have done instead. He could have moved his army back and had 1 turn, 2 turns of shooting, because moving back means I'm definitely still outside of my charge range, so I move another 8. Then I'm in charge range with my Revenant Cavalry, and it's 2 turns of shooting, so then 1 Revenant Cavalry would probably be dead by then. And suddenly me not having chaff means that we're equal speed, because, apart from the whites, but speed 6 Soul Reaver Infantry, speed 6 Shock Troops, speed something slightly faster Impalers, things could have gone out that way. So maybe that's the way to play the Ratkin. But I don't play Ratkin, so I'm not really sure if that is the right way. But I feel like maybe moving back, especially since there's no objectives to go to, why not try and delay the inevitable by just moving back, shooting into the hordes of the undead, and hopefully remove some things before the battle really gets in earnest. And I mean, if you're lucky, you do shoot one of them off, and maybe you can even start getting shots in on something more interesting, such as, the Soul Reaver Infantry, because they can be shot off, or at least wavered. But it was a great game. Oz is a very nice gentleman. He's fantastic to play against. I don't think I've ever played against him, but I have talked to him, and he's always just a chill fellow when it comes to Kings of War. He just likes the game, and he painted this whole army up, and it looks great. So it's Mantic models, so it's nothing to complain about at all. And I won, so it definitely makes it easier for me that I won. But it was 2 Mantic armies smashing it out. It was a fantastic Kings of War game, and that's really what you want. And then after this, we all went out to the local pub, Waltzing Matilda, which is just across the road, I got a chicken parmigiana, which we call down here in the south of Australia a parma with an A at the end, and it was fantastic. I hadn't had a parma for a very long time, and I was looking forward to it immensely. It's that kind of guilty pleasure pub food that you try not to have too often, because it's not that healthy for you. It's a monumental amount of chicken that obviously did not come from one chicken, and it's fantastic, and I really enjoyed it, and the company as well. And my wife came along, and she also enjoyed the company. If there's one thing to be said about Kings of War, that's the fridge. They're all gentlemen's and just always quite good and chill kind of company, which can't be said for all war games, but I will not name any of those. So that's it. That's the end of day 1. So now it's 2 wins, 1 loss. Pretty good way to go into day 2. And I'll bring those battle reports out much faster, because now my international travel days are behind me. But what's exciting is I did manage to get to Singapore for work, and I got to meet up with Paige Neo and the whole gaming club there at Hammer House Games. So I do have 1 battle report that will be coming from there, and Paige will have another battle report. So we got to fight and have a game. They put together a whole army for me, not for me to keep, but they scrambled together all kinds of miniatures. mostly from Gad's Trident Realms force, and I got to use some Trident Realms over there against First Order of the Green Lady, helmed by Paige Neo, who will be bringing out his own battle report covering that, and then also against another person there, James, who gave me a great game with his dwarfs. So I'll do the dwarfs one, but that's after all this stuff. But hey, there's more battle reports, so just stick around, like and subscribe, comment where I went wrong or how mean I was, and that I should have held back. Otherwise, keep caffeinated.